If you are siding with Karmelo simply because he's black, you're wrong. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over the Karmelo Anthony trial. It has now just started, and I got a couple thoughts still about it. I know we haven't gotten that far into it, but just looking at some of the facts of it, the jury selection to the very first day of opening statements, there's a lot to go over. First thing I want to start with is actually the jury selection, right? So if you haven't heard, the jury selection is over, and there was an issue where the defense was not happy with the jury selection because the last three candidates to get stricken from the jury, which you don't know what that means, they were summoned for jury duty, and then once they interviewed them, I guess you could call it that, they decided not to use them. The prosecution said, no, we're not doing that. And the defense said, why? The defense feels it was because they were black. The prosecution says it's because they were educators. So when it got taken to the judge decided that there was no racial bias in choosing these jurors.
A court spokesperson confirmed that there are indeed no black jurors on this panel. And I can tell you that before this jury panel was seated, the defense objected to 3 black women being struck by the prosecution. Now, the prosecution contended that it was due to the fact that the women were educators, noting that this incident happened at a school function with young students.
As an educator myself, I am a black female educator, just like these last 3 women that got stricken for the jury, black female educators. I can see where they would say that it would be biased to have an educator as a juror would be a problem because it took place at a school event. When anything happens at a school, we have our own personal opinion about how schools run, what happens, who's at fault, and why is at fault just because it's at a school. Plus, it's a little bit of a different viewpoint being a teacher and looking at this through the lens of young people, saying that these are my students, these could be my students, and then sympathizing in a way that you would sympathize with a student versus someone that you don't really typically know. So this taking place in a school event in a school area while they were both still students. Austin should have graduated this year, and he didn't because his life was taken from him. And it's very emotional for educators when something like that happens with a student. So I can see why they would not have been chosen for that reason. Do I believe that was the reason they weren't chosen? Yes and no. I could equally believe that them being black was another reason, but the educator stick was a good cop out. I could totally understand that. And I know some of you probably don't believe me because my last video, y'all didn't necessarily agree with my assessment of the Karmelo Anthony situation when I said that black people need to stop siding with him. But by the way, I still think that. So if that annoys you, I don't know what to tell you. I still think that. But I can admit that it's a little suspicious that these 3 women were not chosen and they were black, but at the same time, them being educated is an equal reason why they should not be jurors. So I guess we'll never really truly know. The judge decided that it wasn't biased, that this was a good reason to not have them be jurors. So it's what it is. It's too late anyway. They've already started with statements. Oh, and by the way, for all of you that were in my comments last year on my video telling me it didn't take place on school property, it did. School property is anything owned by the school. The track was owned by the school. So that's school property. Yeah. If you're going to be mad about something, at least be mad about something that makes sense. So that, if you're going to get off my comments, if you're going to argue with me about that, because that is school property. Look it up yourself. That's school property. Anywho.
Here, but then we just heard from an officer who arrived who did not partake in any life-saving efforts for Austin Metcalf's body, more of scene patrol, scene security is what he was saying, and evidence control. The impactful part of that testimony is that we saw the body cam from this officer where you actually see Austin Metcalf's pretty much lifeless body, everyone trying to give him chest compressions, but you see the body on screen, and that obviously brought out a visceral, emotional reaction from the Metcalf family. Plenty of tears and sobbing and consoling. And I looked towards Karmelo Anthony's side, and it was pretty stoic. There was a pretty, a lack of emotion there, not necessarily in a negative sense, but just really take evidence here, all the facts of this case as the prosecution presents it thus far.
I think it says a lot, and not in a good way, that the people on Karmelo Anthony's side could watch that body cam video of the life-saving measures trying to be given to Austin, who, according to this broadcaster, I didn't see the video. None of us watching this have seen the video. It was only played in court. It says a lot that they were stoic while this was playing. Austin was someone's son. He was someone's friend. He was someone's brother, and he's gone now. All because Karmelo Anthony was sitting under the wrong tent. They told him to move. Now, I get that Austin put his hands on him, but I still have not heard from anybody. Black, white, I don't care who you are. I've still not heard an explanation from anybody why that Warren is pulling out a knife and stabbing someone. Let's take it beyond even bringing the knife on school property, which he should not have done. I have still not heard anyone explain to me why it's justified that this kid should have lost his life because he put his hands on Karmelo to get him to move out from under the tent. It's common knowledge at any sporting event, and not just track. I ran track for 1 year, but we're going to take track out of it because I only did it for 1 year. I did soccer. I was in marching band, which I know some people don't consider a sport, but stay with me for a minute. So being in marching band, I've also seen football all the time because I had to follow the football players everywhere they went. What sporting event do you know of where it is okay to sit with the other team? When you have your own tent, your own bench, your own locker room, that's for your team's usage. It's so that your team can keep their stuff separate. It's also for your team to congregate together and come up with action plans for the actual sporting event itself in order for your team to win and get feedback. You don't want the other teams to hear that. So why is the excuse of it was raining good enough to explain or excuse why Karmelo didn't have to move from underneath the tent? So what? It was raining. Okay, unless he's the Wicked Witch of the West, he ain't gonna melt. Get up and move. Like, you had no reason to be there. I don't understand. You were sitting with the wrong team. They asked you to move, you didn't, and they told you to move again, and you said, "Touch me, see what happens." Which, by the way, to me is a warning, but it's not like "don't touch me" or anything like that. It doesn't tell me that he was being threatened. To me, it doesn't say you're being threatened. It sounds more like a dare. If I feel like I'm being threatened, I'm not going to dare somebody to do something. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm just not going to do it. Maybe you would. I don't do that. My opinion on this still hasn't changed so far. And I'm not even done with this news broadcast either. We're going to continue watching the rest of it.
How important is the weapon, the size of the weapon? Does it matter, especially when this is a knife that obviously was able to kill someone?
No, I mean, it's always a key part of any prosecution case to have the weapon. So when you have the weapon there and you can show that, and it dispels any, false rumors that it was a stake or something that was used for the sporting event that was going on. This is a knife. This is a knife that is a dangerous knife. And this is a knife that should not have been at a sporting event for a high school team.
Last year, there was a big issue with people saying that it was one of those things that sharpens like the blades on, I think, like track shoes. If you don't know anything about track shoes, they're spiked so that they get a better grip on the track itself. I don't know too much about those. When I ran track, it was in middle school, so we really didn't have a need for those. That's more like a high school thing. But like you said, it dispels the myth that it was a knife. There were people saying it wasn't a knife, so he didn't bring a weapon. So this undoubtedly proves that he did bring a weapon to a school event. That knife was a weapon. So if there was anyone in this video watching this or watching any other video that anyone's done on this topic, you can now stop saying it was a stake. It was in fact a knife. It was in fact a weapon. And it has been proven in court it was a 5-inch blade. So that doesn't include the handle. The blade itself is 5 inches long. Now, we keep hearing that question because there's no reason to have something like that at a track meet. There's no reason to have one like that at a school event. It's not something that would be used for work. It's not something that he would have needed for the event. So why would he have this on him? It wasn't specifically for Austin. So why is he carrying this around? I know my kids are not school aged yet, as you can see with like their toys laying around the background and pick them up. But I would never allow my child, I would never knowingly, let's put it that way, allow my child to carry a knife around in their backpack to a school event. If I knew that they were doing that, I would be pissed off. And it amazes me that his family and friends and his supporters don't see a problem with him bringing a weapon onto school property, especially all the things that are happening with schools and kids in schools and people coming in and the school, not to make it sound like, not to minimize it, but like, I don't want my video to be taken down, but like, school pew-pews and things like that. I cannot understand for the life of me why his supporters are saying he was justified in having this knife with him. If you were siding with Karmelo Anthony and saying that he's okay, that he should not be found guilty and that he should be able to walk, you were saying it's okay that he brought this to a school event. Well, there's other people's children. People were walking past him not knowing that he's armed, and they could get hurt. Austin didn't know he was armed. I bet if Austin knew that this kid had a knife on him, first of all, Karmelo Anthony would not have stayed at the track meet, so he would have been reported. But Austin probably wouldn't put his hands on him either. And people that are supporting Karmelo Anthony are saying, well, that's why you don't put your hands on people. You don't know what they have. While this is a true statement, this kid should not have had a weapon at a school event. And I do not understand why no one supporting Karmelo Anthony wants to co-sign that. You know that he's wrong for having that knife there. You know he's wrong. So because Karmelo Anthony brought something on to school property, to a school event, that he should not have had, and because he was sitting in the wrong spot and then refused to move because it was raining, even after being asked to move. The first time involved no physical touching at all. After being asked to move, y'all are saying that Austin deserved what he got. Is that what Karmelo Anthony supporters are saying? Because to me, that is completely ridiculous.
No weapons are supposed to be brought into the schools. Schools have a zero tolerance of any type of. They have a zero tolerance for having a pretend gun. You can't even bring a water pistol in some instances if it looks like a real weapon. So that is a zero tolerance policy. It's a school event. He's a student. He's there. He's got a knife. So, whether or not it's legal to have it, it doesn't matter. Okay, it shouldn't have been there, and it shouldn't have been used, and it shouldn't have taken the life of that, poor 17-year-old kid.
Lateef, is that, in your opinion, going to be weighing on the minds of the jury about where should this knife have been? Where was it permitted to have been? Or again, does it matter at all because this knife was used in a way that killed someone?
Well, I will say
I'm
this.
sure that's something that.
All right, let me let Lateef weigh in, Al, and then I'll let you react to it.
All right.
I'm sure that's something that the jury will consider, but I think we all know law trumps policy. So if it's not against the law, like I said, it's something that the jury will consider, but I don't think that will carry the day for either side at the end of the day.
I think that's going to play a gigantic part in this. I don't know if it would carry anything, but I think it really hurts the defense in saying that Karmelo Anthony was justified in having it, because he wasn't, because the policy said don't have it. And he's also a student. School policy is handed out to every family and every parent. It is on the website. They go over the policy. It's things that you had to sign, at least where I live. It's something that you had to sign every year. If you got a school agenda, every school agenda I had when I was in school, every school agenda that was given to students every year while I was teaching had the policy in there. It's in your agenda. It's like the first 10 pages of your agenda is the policy. So you were given it. So they say, well, I didn't read it. Well, that's kind of your fault. You were given it. You need to read things before you sign them. This kid was 17 when this happened. You are not going to convince me that for 17 years, well, I guess less than that, because you don't really start kindergarten until you're 5. So we'll subtract 5 years. You're not going to convince me that for 12 years he did not know that he could not bring a weapon to a school event. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So do I think it'll carry the defense? No, but I think it makes it harder for the defense when the school policy says you can't have it. And this has been a school policy most likely his entire educational life. I think it'll be hard for the defense to say he didn't know any better, because he did. So I don't necessarily agree with the black lawyer. I think he's a lawyer. I don't necessarily agree with him. I am very, very disappointed with the amount of people supporting Karmelo Anthony. If this was reversed and Karmelo was someone that got stabbed and Austin was someone that did the stabbing, I do not believe Karmelo Anthony's supporters would be advocating for Austin. I just don't. I think there's too many people that are supporting Karmelo because he's black, and they want to believe that Karmelo was a victim because he was black. And at the end of the day, Karmelo is not a victim. He was sitting in the wrong spot. He brought a weapon to an event where he was not supposed to have one. And he would not move when he was told to move because he was sitting with the wrong team. And you cannot do that. You're not supposed to do that. I don't care if it was track. I don't care if it was swim. I don't care if it was marching band, cheerleading, football. I don't care. Throw whatever sport you want in there, lacrosse. I don't care. You do not sit with the other team. That makes zero sense. It makes zero sense. And he refused to move because it was raining. Boo-hoo. It's track. So you got wet. Okay? And water hurts nobody. And because he refused to move, Austin's dead. Now, again, did Austin put his hands on him? Apparently he did. But it didn't sound like he punched him. It wasn't like a slap. It wasn't, I'm beating you up. It wasn't anything like that. But there's no justification so far that says Austin deserved to be stabbed and lose his life. If you are siding with Karmelo simply because he's black, you're wrong. And I know that some people in the last video I made, you didn't like me because I said that. And I got news for you. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to state the facts. That's what this channel is for. I look at things from a non-biased lens. And look, I don't think Karmelo Anthony is a bad kid. I actually don't. I really don't. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he made a really bad decision. And because he made a bad decision, this is going to haunt Karmelo for the rest of his life. Let's say he doesn't go to prison, or let's say he gets a short prison term since he gets out. He's starting his life out with a record. And even if he doesn't have a record, who's going to want to hire somebody that's going to bring a knife in and stab you because someone pushed you? Like, are you serious? Like, I wouldn't want to hire you. I definitely wouldn't want to work with you. I think the whole situation all around is sad. I feel bad for both Karmelo Anthony and Austin, but I think as a black community, we need to start giving ourselves higher standards and not just side with other people just because they look like us. At the end of the day, so far with the evidence we have, unless something happens between this video being posted and the end of this trial, unless something else comes out that Karmelo Anthony's life was in danger, he was wrong. That's it. He was wrong. I would like to hear your thoughts. I'm sure some of you are going to give it to me, and I'm sure some of you don't like me, and I don't care. I still would want to hear from you. I want to know what you think, why you think the way you do, and maybe I'll read your comment in another video. I was actually thinking about doing a video about comments about Karmelo Anthony on my videos. And I will see you in my next one. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.